Hello again, my fellow aspiring nurses. It's me, I'm back, your ate nurse. Yun, ate nurse. Ready to give you helpful tips and advice as you work your journey on becoming a UKRN. Yo, go for the goal. Yo, wale. Sorry guys, medyo natagalan ako gumawa ulit ng vlog, but I'm back. Before anything else, let me introduce myself. As you can see, I'm wearing my blues. Ewan ko kung kita nyo, pero medyo hinahabol nga siya ng plancha. Dito kasi, guys, hindi uso ang plancha. This uniform is for free and provided by the trust. And sila din yung naglalaba. Pero for the sake of this vlog, alam niyo na, nagnenok tayo ng isa. Okay? So I mainly work in the recovery unit. So in short, I am a PACU nurse. P-A-C-U. PACU. In small tertiary hospitals in the Philippines, alam ko na kapag circulating nurse ka, ikaw na rin ang nagre-recover sa patient. But here, it's a different scenario. It's a very special area which requires special skills. So, yung mga patients na lumalabas from theaters ay mga nakatubo pa at hindi pa sila gumigising. So, kami yung nagtatanggal ng tubo. The role of recovery nurse for the most part are mainly airway management and pain management. So, the things that I will share with you are those that I have observed mainly in my area that are very different from the practices that I've learned from the Philippines since we are American adapted standards. And this also applies sa ibang area like ward. So number one, I think this applies sa buong UK. So, there's no time in or time out. So, wala kang time card, wala kang ID na i-scan mo kung anong oras ka nag-time in or nag-time out. Dito, pupunta ka lang sa work pero kailangan on time ka. So, it's your credibility and integrity. So, konsensya mo na lang yun kung lagi kang late, di ba? It reflects your character as a person. Parang di late, no? So, aga-agahan natin pag may time, bawal ang Filipino time dito. So, number two, so we have this Health and Safety at Work Act that protects the employees. This ensures that all employers provide a safe working environment and look out for the health of their employees wherever their place of work. So, that's the reason why we have breaks in between on our 13-hour shift, 1-hour break split into two, 30 minutes for lunch and 30 minutes for dinner. This is also the reason why the trust doesn't allow a 3 days long day straight, like 13 hours, 3-day shift. Pero pwede ka mag-bank in between kasi hindi naman yung regular shift. So, your discretion. And we also undertake so many trainings and e-learnings. Yun yung mga online modules na tinitake namin or tinatapos namin, binabasa namin, tapos may exam pa na kailangan namin ipasa. Yun, madaming courses, madaming modules, madaming trainings. So number three, what I really like about here is the culture that we work as a team. We are first name basis in here. We don't call anyone ma'am or sir. Even our patients, we call them by their first names or they are very used to terms of endearment like darling, sweetheart, love. When I say that we work as a team, we're not really under doctors, but we're even because we work as a team. We are colleagues. Since we stay with the patient 24/7, doctors value our opinions. For example, I want my patient to have a pain relief of morphine 10 to 20 milligrams and extra fluids of compound sodium lactate. Then I would tell to the doctor, can you prescribe it? And they would be happy to do it. There's this one time that my patient was experiencing nausea and vomiting or PONV. We call it PONV, post-operative nausea and vomiting. So my patient doesn't have any prescribed antiemetics. So I call the doctor, can you prescribe antiemetics? And then he asked me, what antiemetics do you want me to prescribe? I would like you to prescribe ondansetron, cyclizine, and chlorperazine, please. Thank you. And he prescribed it. Things like that. We have a voice in here, so that's what I really appreciate and like about being a nurse here in the UK. So it's very crucial for you to know your craft, to gain the necessary knowledge and skills as you go along the way with your experience. Kasi pag paeng-eng-eng ka dito, you are risk for error. And we have our own decision making whether to give the medication or not. If you were able to justify that the medication should not be given to the patient despite the fact that it was prescribed for the patient, then you may not give it. So number 4 is we have this culture of continuity of care. So meaning if there are things that still needs to be done and your shift is about to finish, then the nurse who will be taking over is willing to do it or will be doing the unfinished task. So dito, yung mga pending mo, pwede mo siyang i-hand over sa next nurse on duty. For example, 10 minutes before your shift is over, there's a doctor's request, he need doctor's order to do a blood transfusion. And because of so many things that needs to be done with the patient, you weren't able to do it. So you can hand that over to the next nurse on duty and she will be doing or he will be doing the blood transfusion. So may kwento ko sa inyo. Nung bago pa lang akong nurse dito, meron akong isang medication na hindi nabigay at nakalimutan ko. So, nasa bahay na ako nung naalala ko. And my house or where I'm staying at during that time was just 10 minutes away by walk from the hospital. So, binalikan ko siya. And one of the band 6 nurses or one of my senior nurse asked me, why are you still here? I told her that I forgot to give the Senna. Tapos sabi niya, Jewel, that's just Senna. The next nurse can give it. You go home. Noong una hindi ko sila maintindihan kasi hindi naman yun yung culture na nakagistan ko back in the Philippines. So, medyo nahirapan akong mag-cope at nahirapan din sila dahil parang lagi nilang sinasabi sa akin na, don't worry, what you can do within your shift, just do it, and then those are things that are left undone, then the next nurse will be doing it. That's what continuity of care is. Yun. So, dito, we really truly value continuity of care. So, sa madaling salita, uuwi ka on time. Number 5 is, when it comes to endorsement, or we call it handover in here, we have a time allotted for that. So for example, the time for the AM shift starts at 7:30 and finishes at 8:30 p.m. The time for the night shift starts at 8 p.m. and finishes at 8 a.m. So kung mapapansin nyo, may overlapping ng time because there are 30 minutes handover time. So you have 30 minutes to hand over your patients, which is very good because by the time we finish handover, it's already been past 30 minutes or even 1 hour kung 12 yung pasyente mo, diba? Pero hindi naman umaabot ng 12 ang pasyente dito. I think up to 8 patients. So, ayun. So, your handover time is paid. In here, we don't normally remove jewelries when a patient is having surgery. Big jewelries like watch, we will. But rings, piercings, or earrings, we don't normally remove them. We just put a tape on it just to protect it from getting lost or from being lost. And also nail varnish or nail polish. Especially in here, also yung gel nail, which is very, very hard to remove. So we don't remove it as well, which is, I don't know, which is odd. I find it odd. But yeah, that's the way it is in here. Number 7, when it comes to observations or vital signs, I know in the Philippines we call it vital signs, but here in the UK we call it observations. In the recovery area, the standard is 5 to 15 minutes, and if the patient is stable, 30 minutes or every hour. But in the ward, in the morning, you just have to take it 3 times in a day: morning, afternoon, evening. And in the evening or night shift, we just take the vital signs 1 at night and 1 in the morning. We take care of the patient's well-being. They need to sleep, they need to take a rest. So that's why. Because generally patients are stable, but if they are not stable, it's upon nurse's discretion. Then we have to take it more frequently. In here as well, visitors are not allowed to stay overnight with the patient. I think they can only visit until 8 or 9 p.m. And that is before COVID. And now due to COVID restrictions, it is 1 visitor per patient for 1 hour. Okay, when it comes to IV fluids, our most commonly used fluid is compound sodium lactate, which complements the blood more than the plain NSS. And if the patient is perfectly stable, fully awake, able to drink, blood pressure and heart rate are normal, observations stable, then we can take that IV fluid down. Hindi uso dito guys ang 24/7 na nakaswero ka while you are in the hospital. And we seldom regulate IV fluids in here. We don't count the drops per minute in here. We just regulate it in a moderate rate and that's it. As long as the fluid is ongoing to the patient, not too fast, not too slow. And if we do need to regulate the fluids in the most accurate rate, then we have to use the volumetric pump, or we call it the Alaris pump in my hospital. When you come here in the UK and your area will be in the ward, most of the patients there don't have IV fluids running. They're mostly on HEPLOC, or we call it bung. For number 10, catheterization on patients with spinal anesthetics is not necessarily needed. So you will often see here patients who's had spinal anesthetics don't have catheter unless it's a lengthy operation. If it's like 1 to 2 hours operation, like a hip replacement, even the patient is in spinal anesthetic, they would not insert a catheter because of the risk of infection. Also, we don't need the doctor's request or doctor's order when we catheterize the patient. It's upon nurse discretion if we need to put the catheter in. So there you have it. Those are my 10 UK healthcare practices and culture that I've observed that are very different from the Philippines or from the American healthcare standards. Let me know in the comment section if you want me to do a part 2, because I have got so many things to share with you and to tell you guys. So yeah, just stay tuned for more. If you want to be entertained with my singing and also more information and helpful tips on being a nurse here in the UK, then I would love you to subscribe to my channel. That would be a big help for me, and we're helping each other by making this community grow. And thank you so much in advance. Thank you. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.